Summer break is so bittersweet for me because I love the ability to sleep as late as I want and stay up as late as I want. On the other hand, I miss seeing most of my friends and I enjoy schoolwork. My name is Nicholas and I live with my parents between two cities in the middle of nowhere. There's not much to do and it's always a chore to plan things with friends or for them to come over. So I'm usually left with my thoughts and vices during the summer. My older brother Robert has the same problem, except he spends his free time surfing what he calls the dark web. I've also heard it to be called the deep web. Regardless, he goes on there for hours at a time, looking at various websites and reading some very interesting documents. I was extremely bored one day and decided to ask him what it was all about. He was reluctant, but he instantly pulled up a chair and showed me everything. It started with the typical websites where you can buy drugs, weapons, and other people to take out other people. I thought it was very fascinating and of course, we weren't gonna buy anything because neither one of us had Bitcoin, so we were just window shopping so to speak. As we continued to dig deeper, we stumbled upon a website that sold electronics. Had game systems starting from the first Nintendo to the PS5. However, a game system I had never seen before had a bestseller sticker on the icon. I told him to click on it. The description said that the system had any game from any platform. It was an emulator on crack. I looked at the price tag and noticed that it was only $249.99. The website also took credit cards, to my surprise. I told my brother that I wanted it, but we didn't have that kind of money. He laughed at me while getting up from his chair and walked over to his closet. Inside the metal Star Wars lunchbox was a wad of cash. He told me that he had over $5,000. He has been saving money from mowing yards. He told me it was about 3 summers worth of cash. He counted out $250 and told me to go ask Dad for the credit card and that money will pay him back. I thought he was an absolute genius. I walked into the living room as Dad was watching a baseball game. I handed him the money, and when he asked me what it was for I told him discreetly about the game system. He really didn't know much about technology, but he handed me his credit card, put the cash in his pocket, and went back to watching the Reds. I ran back into my brother's room with the credit card. He smiled at me and took it. He clicked buy now with Dad's information in. We received a confirmation on the screen that said we would get it in 3 to 5 days. I was excited because my summer just got a whole lot better. I checked the mail daily for the package and finally, it arrived after 4 days. I once again burst into my brother's room and shouted that it was finally here. We both got on the floor and ripped open the package like it was Christmas morning. The system was very unique. It wasn't like a typical gaming system that was a rectangle or cube. It was a star shape when we plugged it into the TV. It sat in the form of a pentagram. We booted it up and it had King Bowser's laugh from the Mario games. I thought it was a very cool aesthetic. We scrolled through the amount of games for what seemed like hours. Any PlayStation or Xbox game that you can think of was on this thing. It had the categories broken down per console. The very last list has the letters MISC. We scrolled out of curiosity. The one game that piqued our interest was a choose-your-own-adventure game. So we selected to start. The game started with text that read, "Welcome, please choose a parent, mom or dad." We chose Dad. The text continued, "Dad is running late for work. Which outfit do you choose, the white shirt or the red shirt?" We thought it was weird, but we chose the red shirt. We also chose blue jeans over khakis, and his white New Balance shoes over brown loafers. The final line of text read, "Thank you for your choices. That's it for today. Come back tomorrow." We were confused and thought it was kind of lame, so we stopped playing. We scrolled back to the PlayStation option and chose to play the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the rest of the day. Mom came knocking at about 6:30 to tell us that dinner was ready. She had made meatloaf with mashed potatoes and corn. She told us to go ahead and eat and Dad would be home a little later because work held him up. Right as we were about to finish our meal and get back to playing, Dad walked in and greeted us. He was wearing a red shirt with jeans and his white New Balance sneakers. Robert and I just looked at each other and thought it was just a coincidence. We finished eating and excused ourselves from the table and went back into Robert's room. He closed the door behind us and asked if I thought it was freaky because he thought it was. I agreed with him, but again we came back to the conclusion that it was probably just a coincidence. We played for a few more hours, then I got tired and went to bed. The next morning, I poked my head into his room to see if he was awake. He was, and I asked him if he wanted to do the Choose Your Own Adventure game again. He said it was kind of lame, but let's go for it. We decided to choose Mom this time. We chose a few options, but we picked the more ridiculous option of the two. So we picked Mom to wear a baseball cap instead of flat ironing her hair, her red date night dress over pajamas, and her pink fuzzy slippers over a pair of stilettos. The game once again thanked us and told us to report back tomorrow. A few moments later, Mom knocked on the door to let us know breakfast was ready. I shit you not, she was wearing a baseball cap, dress, and slippers. Robert and I were in shock and we just laughed. Did we stumble upon a game where we could choose things for our parents? The idea was insane, so we decided we were going to do that for the entire summer. A few days went by and we would slip back and forth from Mom to Dad and choose options for them that day. Nothing out of the ordinary, just simple choices like if they wanted milk or coffee with their breakfast, or Mom should call Grandma or our Aunt Janine in the afternoon. It wasn't until about a week later we started getting some very eerie questions. One morning, we decided to choose Dad again. The 3 questions that the game asked made us feel uneasy. The first question was, Dad is hungover from drinking after a fight with Mom. Does he call in sick or does he go to work hungover? We had no idea that Mom and Dad were fighting. We decided to cut him a break, so we chose for him to call in sick. That was a bad choice. When he called in sick, his boss knew that he was hungover and fired him immediately over the phone. Dad had lost his job and it was our fault. Question 2, even darker, it said Dad is stressed about losing his job. Does he go to the bar and drink all day without telling Mom, or does he drink at home and endure the consequences with Mom? Either choice sounded very bad, so we didn't know which one to pick. We chose for him to go to the bar. Mom didn't need to find out about Dad losing his job, not for today anyway. The last question was the most terrifying of all. It asked, Dad is going to come home extremely drunk. Does he kill Mom or does he kill his 2 sons? We were not interested in answering that question and tried to get out of the game. Nothing was working, as if we couldn't close the game until we answered the final question of the day. We didn't want Dad to hurt Mom, and we certainly didn't want him to hurt us. We decided to choose us. Dad was not going to be home for a few hours, so it gave us time to prepare. We walked into her bedroom and asked Mom if we could go to Aunt Janine's house to spend the night. She was confused by the question, but she was delighted that we wanted to spend time with her, so she called Aunt Janine and they both agreed. Within a couple of hours, Aunt Janine came to pick us up. We thought we were safe. Oh, how wrong we were. We got to Aunt Janine's house and she prepared dinner for us. We looked outside of the kitchen window and Dad was standing in her front yard. He knew where we were and found us. All we could do was hold each other's hand as Aunt Janine let Dad into the house.
Did you ever have someone in your life that you would do anything for, but they don't even know you exist? That's how I feel about my coworker Felicia. We had worked on the same floor of an office building for years. I remember the day she got the job like it was yesterday. This cute girl straight out of college walked in and interviewed for an open position in my department. She made a hell of a first impression and was hired immediately because her resume was top-notch. I had only started working there 4 months prior myself. We are about the same age and I think she's absolutely beautiful, but I'm too chicken shit to ask her to even grab a coffee with me. I even at one point bought 2 floor seat tickets to see Taylor Swift, her favorite artist, not even asking her to go with me, or even go to the concert for that matter. I know that was stupid and pathetic of me. Since it is a 9 to 5 office job, I get weekends off. This is a double-edged sword because I get time all to myself, but all I do is think about Felicia. I stalk her on Facebook from time to time. She has her profile set to public so I could see her at her sister's baby shower last month, grabbing drinks at a local bar, or attending a New York Jets football game with her dad. I knew everything about her, and she didn't even know my name. My coworker/friend will told me about the dark web. So he came over to my house, downloaded the Tor browser on my desktop for me, and left me to it. I began looking at sites that showed mostly illegal things like stolen property or hitmen for hire. I wasn't interested in that. After a foot-long meatball sub and about an entire party-sized bag of spicy nacho Doritos, I found a website called Warlock. Kind of a weird name, but in the description, it stated that if I paid in Bitcoin I could have any wish granted. I instantly pulled money out of my savings account and bought a Bitcoin. It wasn't cheap, but I was curious. I was prompted to fill out a form for my wish. I had to fill out some uncomfortable information such as my address, social security number, blood type, and yearly income. It was risky, but I went forward anyway. At the bottom of the form was a box to fill in with text about my wish. I simply put that I would like to know Felicia better. Simply put, I wanted to get it over with quickly. I clicked on Grant Wish. The screen had a graphic of a genie popping out of a lamp with a text bubble that said, "Wish granted." Then my screen went black for a moment. I thought I royally fucked my computer up. Just when I was about to hard reset it, I was taken to a video feed of a bedroom. I was confused for a moment, but only for a moment, then all of a sudden a bedroom light turned on and Felicia walked in through a door. I immediately turned my monitor off and hyperventilated. I collected myself and turned it back on. I was looking live inside Felicia's bedroom. She had just gotten home from another night on the town. She was dressed up to the nines. She takes off her shoes and opens her closet to put them on a rack. Followed by her jewelry, then she starts taking off her dress. I looked away, at first. She slid the dress down to the floor and put it in a hamper. She was walking around in her bra and panties. I felt like a total creep, but I couldn't look away. I am not going to lie, I was enjoying the show. She eventually took both off and walked out of the room. I was staring at absolutely nothing on my screen for 45 minutes. She returned with only a towel on her head. She had taken a shower. She walked out of the frame, grabbed a pink silk nightgown and put it on. She rubbed lotion all over her body and face right before she went to bed. She then looks my direction and yelled, "Hey, what are you doing?" in anger as she approached the screen. I felt like my heart was about to explode with anxiety. She bent down and picked up her cat. I didn't even know she had a cat. She was scolding the cat because it was chewing on her belt. She kissed the cat on the forehead and proceeded to lie down and fall asleep. I was now watching her sleep. I had encroached on full psycho territory. I knew I should have turned off my computer a long time ago, but I'm not going to lie, I was enjoying the view. I watched her for a good 20 minutes before I decided to go to sleep myself. The next morning, I woke up feeling a little on edge, but at the same time, I was mesmerized about what I did last night. I was considering making this a nightly routine. In a sick, twisted way, this would be a great opportunity to get to know her and maybe strike up any form of conversation with her. The only thing I know in addition to what was on Facebook is that she has a cat. Maybe I could use that today in conversation, I thought to myself as I was getting ready for work. I hopped on my computer one more time before work to see if she was on. She was sitting at her desk doing her makeup with her cat slinking in the background. She had put her hair up in a bun, had pink eyeshadow with lipstick to match, and wore a pink pantsuit. I quickly went into my closet to grab the only pink tie I had. I returned to the computer and she was gone, so I took that as a good indicator it was time for me to leave as well. The commute to work was a conversation with myself about how to break the ice today. Do I start with the tie? Talk about wanting a cat? I wasn't sure. As I approached my parking spot, I looked over and she was getting there at the same time. I got out of my car and she did pretty much simultaneously. We both approached the elevator. I noticed she looked over at me and spotted my tie. She told me that we matched today and giggled to herself. I played dumb and looked down at the tie, then at her, and agreed with her. I could see embarrassment wash over her face when she asked me my name. I told her it was David, and to play dumb once again I asked her for her name. She, of course, said Felicia, and we shook hands. I couldn't believe what was happening. We had our first encounter together, and it was so authentic. We talked the entire elevator ride up to our floor. She told me to have a great day as the doors opened and we went our separate ways. I had to pinch myself to see if this was a dream or not. It was 100% legit. I had a big dumb smile on my face the rest of the day. We also left at the same time and caught the same elevator again. Before I got on the elevator, I went on a pet adoption app and pretended to scroll through it. She glanced down and asked if I was going to adopt a pet. I told her I was looking to get a cat for company, and that cats are way easier to raise than dogs. Her eyes lit up as she told me she had the same opinion. We both started walking towards our cars, and as I was about to get into mine, she told me, "David, have a great evening." My jaw has started hurting from smiling all day. I returned home feeling the happiest I have felt in my entire life. I decided to turn my computer back on. A few moments later, she walked into our room. She looked happy and bubbly as well. Could she be thinking about me? I wondered to myself. That evening, she ordered baby back ribs from Chili's. With it, she had a side of fries and a to-go margarita. She was watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail on her TV. All while I am sitting at my computer desk eating a frozen Salisbury steak dinner. I used to watch Monday Night Football on nights like these, but I found a new sport to watch. Each day I watch her, I've become more and more alright with the decisions I'm making. That next morning, I did the same thing I did the previous day. This time she had her hair down and had a navy blue skirt with heels to match. So I went into my closet and grabbed my navy blue tie. I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got to the office. I left the house a little bit earlier to aid in my plan. I spent the entire way to work, got into my parking spot, and stood by the elevator. I saw her pull into her parking spot. She walked up to the elevator, and I told her, "None shall pass." She laughed at me and said, "I have no quarrel with you, good Sir Knight, but I must cross this bridge." She was playing along and I was soaking in every moment of it. Felicia mentioned that she had watched that movie last night and was amazed that we matched again today. We got in the elevator and did the same thing we did yesterday. The same thing happened after work. A few days went by and I continued to study things about her. It was going great all week. On Friday she asked me if I wanted to go grab drinks with her at the bar that she frequented. I agreed to go, and I was able to meet the people in her social circle. A few weeks went by and she invited me to the New York Jets football game with her dad. Things were going so smoothly and I didn't want it to end. I eventually asked her to be my girlfriend and she accepted. We went out for a full year before I popped the question. She said yes. Our wedding was 9 months later and we got married at MetLife Stadium at the 50-yard line. Joe Namath officiated our wedding, thanks to her dad. The night before my wedding, I decided to completely get rid of Warlock. I had achieved what I was seeking, and my wish came to fruition. I was going to marry the girl of my dreams, so I no longer needed it. Our honeymoon was in Dubai, and we were going to stay at the fanciest hotel, eat the most expensive food, and of course, I was going to treat my bride to a shopping excursion. On the first night of our honeymoon, we consummated our marriage and drank champagne until we both fell asleep. In the middle of the night, a knock came at our hotel door. She was fast asleep, but I answered it. It was a man in a suit and tie wearing a fedora. I thought he was federal when he asked me to speak with him in the hotel lobby. He told me that he was from Warlock, and since the wish was granted, he needed something in return, or he was going to expose me with the personal information I provided, as well as videos of me watching Felicia for hours on end. The website had a give and take policy, which means if they granted my wish, I had to give them something in return. I guess I should have read the fine print. I asked him what he needed. Simply put, he just needed my father-in-law's information. They were planning on blackmailing him for his money. He was a well-to-do man in New York City, and they were suspicious of his activities. They also believed that he was part of a human trafficking ring. I was shocked at what I was just told. I refused to give them his information because I had worked so hard to get the woman of my dreams. He slammed his fist on the table and told me I just made the worst mistake of my life. He said, "Warlock giveth and Warlock taketh away," before he walked out of the hotel. He stood outside of the front entrance and made a phone call before he left my line of sight. I still was trying to process what just happened, so I decided to return to my room. When I got there, I was greeted by my bride, who slapped me in the face and called me a monster. She showed me her phone, and attached was a PDF file of all of my activity. This included clickable links that showed me watching her through her computer screen. She slapped me again, grabbed her luggage, called her dad, and slammed the door behind her. Not wanting to face the harsh reality, I decided to stay in Dubai, where nobody knows me and I can start a brand new life. I am that much of a chicken shit to face my judgment. The man was right. Warlock gaveth, and Warlock taketh away.
If you live in the city of Las Vegas and have ever walked past a homeless man on the street, chances are I was the one that you encountered. My name is Samuel, and I am a gambling addict. My situation changes all the time in Sin City. 1 month I'll be staying at the suite in the Bellagio, and in the next, I am hiding behind the dumpsters of the buffets for throwaway food. I know that I am a gambling addict, and that is the first step to recovery, or so the support group says. One night I was scrounging through a dumpster when a distinguished man approached me and asked me if I wanted to change my life for the better. I took him for some kind of preacher or politician, so I ignored him and kept walking. I guess he caught on and got down to brass tacks. He handed me $5, and attached to it with a paperclip is a folded up piece of paper. All he said was to take to the nearest casino and place a bet on whatever the paper says. I just rolled my eyes at him and said, "Sure, pal." I took it from his hand and unfolded the paper. All the paper said was parlay, CJ Stroud, exactly 3 touchdowns, LeBron James exactly 37 points, and Aaron Judge exactly 2 home runs. At the very bottom, it says $5 to win $1,945. I thought it was too good to be true. For a brief moment, I thought about using that $5 to grab a sandwich or something. However, a part of me just wanted to place the bet and see what happened. So I did as I was told. I went to the closest casino near me, walked up to the sports betting, and put $5 down on the parlay. I walked out of the casino, not expecting anything after I put my slip in my pocket. A few hours went by and I decided to return to the casino for them to tell me that I lost my bet. However, I gave my ticket to the clerk, and he scanned the barcode and congratulated me on my winnings. He pulled out a stack of cash and counted all $1,945 in front of me. I couldn't believe what just happened. I held the money in my hand, expecting it to just vanish. I quickly ran out of the building. I decided to use the money to buy myself a hotel room for the week. That way I had a nice warm bed to sleep in, a shower, and television, and I could eat my weight in the breakfast buffet the next morning. I did just that, and I still had just over $900 left. I felt like a king who had his castle. After 5 days, I received a knock on my hotel room door. I looked through the peephole to see who it was. It was the distinguished gentleman again. I was pleasantly surprised to see him, but wanted to know how he found me. So I decided to invite him in so we could talk. He greeted me by telling me, "Hello, Samuel." The plot thickened because how did he know my name? He continued by telling me congratulations and asked me if I wanted to place another bet. I told him absolutely if I got the same results. He told me I would get the same results every time, but the payout depended on how much I put down. I was all ears. I expected another folded piece of paper with a parlay on it. That was not the case this time. He told me the first one was free, and if I wanted more, I had to go to a sports betting website on the dark web. I had no idea what the dark web was, but if it got me more money, I was game. He pulled out a notepad and wrote step-by-step directions on how to get to the website. He told me that I needed to buy a computer or laptop first. He tore me off the piece of paper and welcomed me to the trough before he left. I immediately rushed to the closest pawn shop and bought a refurbished MacBook. I took it back to my hotel room and followed the step-by-step method given to me by the gentleman. I had to download it to a browser first. After I finished each step, I went to the trough where I had sports betting at my fingertips. Ranging from the over and under of games to the exact amount of passing yards each quarterback was going to throw, how many wins each team would get that season, etc. I'm not sure if this confirmed that all sports are rigged or if the trough employed somebody from the future. I didn't question it, and I jotted down a few things for my parlay. I started with a softball, for lack of a better term for today. I placed a parlay on the Cowboys and Giants game going over, the Toronto Blue Jays to have over 7 runs, and finally, Stephen Curry to make more than 6 3-pointers. I put down the remaining $400 I had left after I bought the Mac. When my parlay hit, I was going to turn $400 into $39,600. I felt unstoppable. My $400 parlay hit. I had a taste, and now I wanted the whole pie. The trough became my lifeblood. I would place thousands of dollars at a time on different parlays and hit. I was a millionaire by the weekend. That weekend, I celebrated by buying myself a mansion, hiring escorts multiple times, cocaine, and getting a suite at the Las Vegas Raiders game. Life was good, keyword, was. I developed a routine that someone would call excessive. The amount of drugs and women I was sleeping with was very alarming. I began not remembering what day it was, or the last time I ate a meal. But I can tell you that I did have sex with an escort named Desiree for 4 consecutive hours last night, or that I put away an entire brick of cocaine in almost one sitting. I was losing control, and I wasn't doing anything about it. One morning, however, I received a knock on the door. I opened it to see the distinguished gentleman again. He congratulated me on the life I had achieved, however he was there to collect. I was confused by his statement. He informed me that when I signed up for the website, I was obligated to give the trough 50% of my winnings after 30 days. I told him that I did not have 50% of the millions of dollars that I had won because I spent it on luxury items. He did not like my answer and told me that I had 24 hours to come up with their 50% cut or he would be back. I was shell-shocked. I quickly ran over to my computer and logged into the trough, but it wouldn't accept my login. I tried multiple times, but to no avail. I have been locked out. I have been keeping track of my winnings since the first $5 parlay. I added up all of my winnings and I had accrued over $64 million in just 30 days. That meant I owed them $36 million. I did not have that kind of money. I counted, and I only had $2 million left. I thought about running, but if he knew where I was in the hotel and my mansion, he would know where I was at all times. For the first time in a month, I felt vulnerable and useless. If my math serves me correctly, I could potentially place a bet with plus 1,700 odds to break even and get their percentage. I knew it was a Hail Mary, but I had no other choice. I came up with one of the craziest parlays that I could think of. The odds were plus 1,700. I was determined to get this monkey off my back. It was a three-leg parlay that consisted of the Steelers covering the spread, Luka Doncic scoring exactly 32 points, and finally the Astros to only score 1 run. It was a tall order, but doable. It came down to the last game of the night, the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. I was sweating through the whole game, but the final score was 5-1 Mariners. I jumped with excitement and quickly went to the window to get my winnings. Afterward, I rushed back to my mansion and waited for the gentleman. He arrived the next morning and I handed him every last dollar I possessed. He was satisfied and left. I may have been broke, but now that I was free from the trough, I felt like I was on top of the world. I may be back to sleeping in alleyways and eating gas station hot dogs, but it feels like sleeping in a mansion and eating caviar to me.